Beacon Street with a man's been shot. 4-4. 4-4 away.
This program is about handguns, not rifles, not shotguns, but handguns, what we do with them and what they do to us. 10 years ago, Americans owned an estimated 10 million handguns. Today, 40 million. In the next hour, we'll find out why some people have handguns, how they got them, and how the explosion in handgun ownership has affected our lives.
Take your guns out, lay them on the counter, and don't open them up.
These men are renewing licenses to have handguns in one of the 8 states that require a license for a gun.
7.65, 424.
Would you go to business without a gun?
No, absolutely not. It's become like putting your keys in their pocket or my wallet.
To have a gun?
Absolutely. I would not consider moving without it in the city.
Bill, you are 15. You've been using handguns since you're 9 or 10. What's it like using guns to shoot people or kill them?
When I shoot a gun, when I pull that trigger, I feel like I own the world, you know. There's no way of stopping me.
Pick up your sight picture, fire.
You feel like you have a live bomb in your hand because every time you pull the trigger, it explodes.
6042.
You say you're afraid of the gun.
Yes. Got a Smith & Wesson.
If you're afraid of it, why do you carry it?
Well, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like if I carry it, there's some kind of a security with me.
I got a Colt automatic.
I'm always afraid some boy's going to come up to me, or
Serial number 3537.
some delinquent's going to come up to me and hurt me. I don't want to use it, but I still have to carry it with me. I feel like I'm a little more secure. That's how I feel about it.
If you have to, will you go get yourself a gun again?
Yeah.
If you have to, will you stick up stores?
Yep.
If you have to, will you shoot somebody?
Yep.
How soon do you expect to be out on the street again?
Any day now.
I carry my gun with me at all times, and I have a .38 special, mainly because of self-protection. One time I was driving along the road at night by myself, and I had this young kid come up next to me and make weird gestures, and came up beside me. I pulled the gun right up in the window, and it scared him enough to leave me.
Bring up to eye level, go high, just slightly drop your front sight.
Bring down on your target, easy. If they start to come at me or something, I'll shoot them. Right there.
If you want to hear the truth, just about everybody out here is on.
Our police departments, although they are very, very efficient, they cannot be every place at once.
So I have a weapon, and no gun legislation gonna make me get rid of it. Only one of the brothers or sisters who may steal it, and then I will purchase another one.
But Michael, are you saying to me that the only way you can think of to get money for yourself and your family is to take a gun and walk in the store and stick up the manager or the man in the store?
No, it's not like, that's not the only way that I can think of. You know, that's the only way that I know.
The police can't protect me adequately because the police can't function till after the fact. In other words, I've got to be a victim of a crime before they can act.
Squeeze it carefully. Just keep squeezing.
Mr. Messerschmidt, how old are you?
75.
And do you carry a gun?
Yes.
Why?
Protection.
Protection. Protection.
Protection.
Protection.
Protection.
The protection.
Protection. I have it in a good place where it's right in handy to use all the time.
Where?
My pocket. Yeah, and I keep my hand in my pocket too, and I don't bother taking it out. I'd blow that right through the coat pocket. If I had the opportunity, I'd blow them atoms. I'd give them a couple in the stomach, you know, just to weight them down a little bit. You know what I mean? I wouldn't try to hit his eyeball or the tip of his nose. No. He'd have to lay there. And I'd bust 5 ribs on him like they'd busted on me.
we are literally living in an era of gun lunacy. Attack, muggings, robbery, assaults, and even murder are just around the corner for all of us.
There are many people who own handguns for fun and for sports competition. Many of them are proud of their skills and safety training. But they are not the people this program is about. What we discovered in preparing this program is that today, ordinary citizens who would not otherwise dream of having a gun are buying one because they are scared out of their wits. Fear is the biggest seller of guns. Studies have shown each urban crime wave has touched off a new round of gun buying. And yet there is a paradox. People buy guns because there are so many other people with guns out there, especially young toughs. And the more we arm ourselves, the more guns there are, for lawful and unlawful use. Meet one of the young Americans who is putting a gun in your hand.
How is it living with yourself, knowing that you just took a life, or you just shot a guy for a few dollars or a few $100s?
That doesn't bother me. Not at all.
Do you think it should bother you?
I mean, why should it? I mean, you get used to it. After a while, you just laugh at it. And you shoot a person, so what?
I am for avoiding getting killed by people who are irresponsible.
Here we go. Take a deep breath, please.
I'm a doctor, and my premises are open to entry by people of all sorts. I never know when I might be accosted, and I think I should have a weapon to protect myself. I carry an arm, a weapon, in my pocket, which is not awkward in size, which is easily picked up and somewhat easily concealable and ready for action. It is a .25 caliber automatic Browning with a bullet in the chamber at all times. The people who work for me, in this instance, my wife, my nurse who's been with me for 20 years, feel much safer knowing that I have a protective sidearm.
Many businessmen have locked up for good rather than confront armed robbers. Some have chosen other measures.
So I came out in hopes of scaring him away, and I fired a warning shot at him. But instead of running out, he returned fire. And we went round and round, and a total of 8 shots were fired. I got hit in the hand, thank God, and I had to kill the man. So after that point, I was so nervous I couldn't work as a pharmacist. As a pharmacist, your attention should be focused totally on your prescriptions. And as I was filling prescriptions, I was more worried about who was walking in the door from that point, being that it was my 4th holdup in 6 months. So that's when I decided to go for the bulletproof glass.
I stick up many stores, store by store, rip off apartments, one by one. It's just only a matter of knowing how. Once you show the person that you're not playing with him, he's not going to resist you. Because if you take your time about it and you don't get nervous, it's not 50% by the time that you're going to turn out on top. It's 100% of the time that you're going to turn out on top.
I got you. Much obliged. Hurry back. I have certain things that I use for my own protection. Naturally, I have rifles and handguns here placed in various strategic locations that I might and might not be able to get to. I certainly don't feel like I'd be foolish to try to use one of these things and jeopardize my own life just to be a hero. But they're here nevertheless. For instance, over here, I have an automatic shotgun. I have mirrors in the store, one there and one up there that I can see behind their back in case they might be carrying something. I have an office located in the rear. You can probably see the two, what look like mirrors here. They're really one-way glass. And I also have a little trap door that opens up in the event that I have to perhaps fire through there rather than go through the mirror. In this area right here, I usually carry some type of handgun like this.
I'd never pistol whipped a person. I've either pointed the weapon or I've either pointed the weapon and shoot the person. Now, there's only but two ways to do something. Either you do it nice and peaceful with the cooperation of your victim, or you blow your victim away with his cooperation.
Local stores like this neighborhood market have become a prime target not only of armed robbers, but burglars. The situation is particularly serious in ghetto areas where residents and shopkeepers face constant threat to life and property. And because they find it difficult to get adequate insurance and police protection, they believe their guns are all they can count on.
This is the steel door in the basement where I keep all my stock. They knocked this door over here, and then I reinforced it with this steel door here. Then they started knocking out the wall here. They tore up the door upstairs, the steel door. They busted open the window there 5 times in 5 months and 21 days. After then, I decided I would stay here if we wanted to stay in business, because they had taken everything we had and we were just about broke.
You're watching WSB television.
My wife and I have been staying for 27 months. We eat here, we sleep here, and I'm not going to let nobody coming off that street and take it away from me as long as I got a little breath in this body.
To safeguard all that is important to them, this couple has gone to lengths that may shock many. But is this where we are heading? Back 100 years, forced to depend on our weapons for our safety, carrying them to work, to bed. Are we becoming a shooting gallery called America?
Are you in the market for a service revolver or a home protection gun?
In most states, guns are easy to get. In 42 states, no license is required. In 30 states, there is no waiting period. Because of a federal law enacted in 1968, a purchaser must fill out a simple form listing his true name and address and stating he is not a felon, a minor, mentally deranged, an illegal alien, or a fugitive from justice. But these forms are easily falsified because they are rarely checked. This is a recent exhibition of guns in Los Angeles. It features a variety of firearms, from expensive antiques to the latest, fastest model. These exhibits are promoted all over the country. Their popularity is testimony to the special appeal that guns have for many Americans.
I'm interested in a small handgun to put in a bedside table drawer.
What do you want your gun for?
I live in a very transitional neighborhood, and I'm a little afraid living there alone and would like some form of protection.
Well, you're not alone. We have quite a few people in your category that come in here. We might have what you want in the price range that you want. Do you have any ability with a gun at all?
No, I've never had any experience with a gun.
I would suggest a smaller frame gun in the price range, perhaps like this, in a 32 caliber or perhaps a 38. This gun here sells for $49.50.
We don't buy them like 1 or 2. We buy them by the dozens or half a dozen.
So when you buy guns, you buy them wholesale?
Yeah.
See if you like the feel of the grip on this or the weight. Now, mind you, you're not going to be carrying this gun. It's going to be at your bedside table or perhaps in your car or something like that.
There are between 30 and 40 million handguns in this country. One that is sold, I think, about every 13 seconds. We are an armed camp. We are the most heavily armed nation per capita in the world.
But a gun, of course, is like an insurance policy. You don't want a sorry insurance policy, a bad one. You want one that's going to pay off if you need it. Now, we do have a charge systems. We use all the local charge cards, the Bank America card and the Master Charge and such.
How long did it take you to get your first gun?
About 15 minutes.
About 15 minutes? You got it in the street?
Yeah.
What did you want that gun for?
I wanted to kill somebody.
In Georgia, a fleeing felon with the cops hot on his tail could stop into a gun store answer a form with about 11 or 12 questions on it, answer them correctly, by the way, even though they may be lies, and get a gun. There's not even any waiting period in the state.
What type of gun did you have in mind, sir?
9mm.
A 9mm. I have some automatics, and I have a 45, which might be...
In the past several years, there have been some efforts by the federal government to strengthen gun control on a national basis. After the Kennedy and King assassinations, Congress in 1968 passed gun control legislation which was designed to stop illegal traffic of guns. But this traffic flourishes. The legislation attempted to keep out cheap foreign handguns, sometimes known as Saturday night specials. Nevertheless, about 400,000 handguns were imported last year. In addition, thousands of military handguns sent abroad as foreign aid have been diverted illegally and shipped back to be sold on the black market, despite a provision in the 1968 law prohibiting resale here of weapons sent overseas. There are now 156,000 licensees who are permitted to sell firearms across state lines. A dealer's license can be obtained by paying $10 and filling out an application which goes through a cursory check. With this license, an individual, even one who is not in the regular business of selling guns, can thereafter dispose of guns.
Everybody out there these days got guns. Store owners, other muggers. You might be a muggy one of these days.
You yourself might be a muggy.
Yeah, when you're supposed to be the mugger.
This is the Colt Firearms test firing range. All our products are fired in this range before they're shipped to the marketplace. And they're fired for two reasons. First, safety, and second, function. This is our .45 caliber pistol. It's proven itself to be durable, dependable, and accurate.
It is no secret that guns are a big business, about $500 million worth a year. What is difficult to learn is the number of handguns being made. The manufacturers won't say. We've been told that this company, Colt, makes about 1,500 handguns a day. But Colt is just one of 24 major manufacturers. In total, there are about 300 operations nationwide, including assembly plants in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina that specialize in small, cheap handguns. The federal government does not report precisely how many handguns reach the U.S. market each year. It estimates the annual growth in the gun supply at 2.5 million. Former Treasury Department official Eugene Rosides, who was once responsible for enforcing the gun laws and recommending new policies, could give us no exact information. When you were in charge of enforcement, did you even know how many guns were being manufactured in the United States?
That's a loaded question because the implication is that I should know how many were manufactured.
Right.
I would say that at the time that I took over the Bureau in July 1, 72, that if someone asked me on that date, did I know exactly how many guns were being manufactured in the United States, I would not be able to give him an exact figure. I would be able to give him an approximate figure that it was in the millions, but not an exact figure. I don't think anyone knows because one of the problems is that, well, I just don't know.
How can you control something that you don't even know how many of them there are?
I think there should be. It seems to me a very simple, obvious requirement that should be put into the statute.
Handguns are also traded illegally in the shadows. No one can estimate how many. Our investigative reporter interviewed undercover agents who described the illegal market in guns as enormous.
David, why is it so easy for you posing as a criminal to buy a gun illegally on a street corner?
Probably because the sources are so unlimited. Examples would be thefts from the homes, thefts from interstate shipments, from trucks, from rail yards. The individual who goes and buys a gun legally over the counter and in turn sells it illegally to associates and individuals.
There seem to be more guns or fewer guns out there in the street to buy illegally.
Appears to be more.
You've been in the underworld. You've worked as an undercover agent for the government. Is there a racket involving guns slated for military aid?
In the early part of 1973,
I reported to the United States government a deal that involved approximately $2.5 million worth of assorted guns that was part of military aid that was in fact juggled around through several countries. Parts of the shipment were actually sold in West Germany. Some of it ended up in Great Britain, and for the most part, they ended up back in the United States.
Now, when you say they ended up back in the United States, who were the buyers of these?
Organized crime.
For what purposes?
For resale to whoever is willing to pay the price.
Now, you gave this information, you say, to intelligence agents of the United States government in 1973.
That's correct.
What happened with this information?
I have no idea. There are people in the government that are turning their backs on it, that don't want to know about it, and there are people in the government that are trying to do something about it.
You'll have the original warrant and the affidavit, and then you'll have a copy of the warrant that you can give to the defendant.
The people who are supposed to be doing something are the agents of the Federal Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau, shown here preparing for a gun raid in Philadelphia. Although former Treasury Department official Rositi seemed unaware of it, the Bureau has the authority under the 1968 federal law to require gun manufacturers to report production figures to the Bureau. Nonetheless, ATF asks for figures only on a voluntary basis. The Bureau also has the authority to restrict illegal gun traffic by investigating military firearms shipments destined for overseas, diverted illegally and shipped back to be sold on the black market, curbing illegal traffic within the United States by investigating the 156,000 licensees and tightening up on a number of licenses, by centralizing the records of gun sales and analyzing their commercial flow, particularly Saturday night specials, and to put the emphasis of enforcement in that area. The ATF could do all these things, but it is not. With only 1,500 agents who spend only part of their time on firearms, the job cannot be done effectively. The Bureau acknowledged this at a recent congressional hearing, which examined administration cuts in the Bureau's budget. The Bureau, part of the Treasury Department, has suggested new measures from time to time, but it has not always gotten the support of the White House. In 1972, you at the Treasury Department and your associates tried to get a Saturday night special bill through. Now, it never got to Capitol Hill. Who intervened?
Well, the White House intervened, as they had a right to do. The White House ran gun control policy from the very beginning in '69. They did concur with us in our efforts to develop legislation to ban the Saturday night special. And we were very hopeful in '72 that we now had agreement within the administration to move ahead and present that proposal.
Right, you did develop that legislation. Then what happened?
The White House said that they were not able to come to obtain the support of the gun representatives.
When you were in the White House responsible for gun policy, what would have happened had you said to Mr. Ehrlichman or to Mr. Mitchell or to Mr. Nixon, let's buck the gun clubs, let's do it our way, let's go for effective gun controls? What would have happened?
I'm not sure that they would have entertained the question seriously at that point. I think that they felt that that supporting legislation on the cheap pot metal handgun was really as far as we should go. I think they recognized the strong influence that the gun clubs, the sporting clubs, other organizations could bring to bear on a political campaign.
Did they care more about these votes than lives?
Well, I'm not sure that they were convinced that lives were necessarily being lost by weapons that were used by those in sporting clubs or gun clubs, that they were really the cheap handguns that were being used by people in the cities.
But ultimately they killed that legislation too when the gun clubs turned against it.
In 1972, there was a turning back from support for the Saturday night special legislation. That's true.
It might have saved lives.
It might have. That's correct.
Eagle Krogh was of the opinion that no gun law can be approved by Congress without a strong push from a president, and that no president is going to give that strong push to gun legislation without the support of the gun clubs. Is that true?
By gun clubs.
Organizations such as yours.
Yeah. Well, I can't say it's true or false. What I would say is that that any administration or anyone else is going to take into consideration what kind of a proposal is put before Congress, number one, and that's something else.
Well,
But it is a concern, I think, of any politician, as far as the gun owners are concerned in America, because you know you've got some 20 million in hunting and this sort of thing, you know.
How much are the gun owners, at least those that you represent, is there any give left? What are they willing to give that you can see that if there is to be some new accommodation reached between those who want guns and those who don't want guns?
Well, now, you say those that want guns and those that don't want guns. You're talking about confiscation, I assume.
No, I'm talking about things which might be a far lesser step. Licensing, registration, sort of a responsibility program, but I'm talking about it on a mandatory basis. Is there any give
well, here's the thing,
in your position?
And I get back again to the laws we've got on the books, federal and state, and let's give them a good go on enforcing, and then we go from there. And we also have established what we call a home firearms safety course, and we've recently redesigned it, and it gets into what we've been talking about, and we call it the NRA Home Firearms Responsibility Manual. We have some 40,000 qualified National Rifle Association instructors throughout the United States. And what we would like to do, and this is the American way, is to make this course available through our clubs and through our instructors to everyone in America that has a firearm in the home. Because we firmly believe that you have a responsibility when you have a firearm.
Well, why, since you do have so many thousands of capable instructors and they're available now and you do want to do something about the problem, why shouldn't a course like this be made mandatory, that those who want to go out and buy a gun, when they go to do so, would not only have to furnish proof of residence, for example, have to give their driver's license, but they would also have to show that they are graduates of an approved course, such as the one which the NRA would offer?
What I'd like to do, with the support of people like yourself and the media throughout the United States, Congress, is to make this known that it is available, and let's go that route before we need to get a law. Let's see the reaction we get. And then if we need a law later on, let's address ourselves to that.
Well, I think that there must be a specific policy on gun control in the White House with a president willing to support it, even though there might be opposition from the various groups. Otherwise, I don't think it has a chance of being enacted.
There is general agreement on that point, that any significant gun legislation requires strong presidential support if it is going to be enacted. To see if such support now exists, we asked the White House how President Ford felt about various gun proposals, or what suggestions he had on the problem. Our initial call and follow-up calls went unanswered. Finally, the White House told us it did not wish to respond on that subject.